Hey folks, this is Kalani. It's been a very busy week in World of Warcraft. There are some huge buffs and nerfs to the Delve Disc Belt, and we finally have some information about how the Collector's Bounty event is going to work. We're going to see drop rates of special mounts or legendary items increase by up to 25 times, so that's going to be pretty insane. The Midnight expansion reveal was also just announced. We have our first look at some player housing assets in game, and the PTR was updated with some new user interface options and a whole bunch of class changes, so we'll go over those as well. There's a lot to talk about, so let's break it all down in this week's WoW News video. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. First up, we finally have some solid information about the new Collector's Bounty event and buff. While this event is active, you'll get double the transmog drops in legacy content, which is everything pre-Dragonflight right now, so when you pop back to an old dungeon or raid, you'll be flooded with loot drops, which should make it much easier to fill out your transmog collection and gather up all of the appearances that you've been chasing after for who knows how long. The event also massively increases the drop rates of mounts and certain legendary items from old content as well. All pre-Dragonflight legacy mounts will have their drop rate increased by 10 times, so there has never been a better time to try and get mounts like Invincible or Ashes of Allah. Here's a list that WoW had linked to for mounts that should be included, and you can see this is a very long list. If you've been chasing after a dungeon or raid mount that comes from an expansion earlier than Dragonflight, chances are that mount will be included. This is going to be such a huge mount farm event, so if you don't have much to do between now and 11.2, farming mounts is going to be much easier and a lot more worth your time. In addition to that, the Eye of Sulfuras, the Bindings of the Windseeker, the Golden Hearthstone card, the Warglaives of Azeroth and Thoradal will all have their drop rates increased by 10 times as well. The dev team also said that something had its drop rate increased by 25 times. We're not too sure which specific reward that massive increase is for, but it's safe to say this will also be the best time to try and finish off any of those legendary farming grinds as well. The event starts up on July 1st, so we don't have too much longer to wait. If you want to do a little bit of preparation, you can park your ults outside of the raid that you want to target the most, or at least target first. I'll be moving all of my ults to the outside of Icecrown Citadel, ready to pick up Invincible after years of farming with no luck so far. Now there is another event coming our way next week, the Greedy Emissary event. Treasure goblins will spawn in Stormwind, Orgrimmar and Dornogal on a set schedule, with extra portals and goblins spawning in Undermine. You'll have plenty of chances to loot rewards and a new currency to spend on other goodies. You'll also be able to pick up a whole variety of rewards, including recolors of the newer tier 2 armor sets and some mounts, so this will be another fun event to look forward to. We'll have a specific video going over how to secure all of the rewards from this event next week. Now in other news, the first housing assets have started making their way into the game files, which means they've been data mined and we can preview them. We've got a whole collection of bits and pieces, different tables, chests, chairs, bookshelves, windows, signposts, rugs, lights, shrubbery, and a load of random decor pieces. There are also a lot of different themes, with almost every race having something specific in this first build. So whether you want to continue the goblin theme from patch 11.1 for, whatever reason, or build a majestic elf house, it looks like we're going to have plenty of options. We don't have a lot of solid info or gameplay footage of this system just yet. We do know that we're going to have a lot of freedom for how to position stuff, and we can make things really big or really small, so I'm super interested to see what players can come up with, but we're still going to have to wait a little bit before we get some real hands-on experience with this feature. The player housing feature should become available for play towards the end of the year, so I imagine we're going to see a lot more housing assets over the next couple of patches. We will also be quickly moving into the next expansion. We know that patch 11.2 is the last major patch of the War Within, and Season 3 will be the last season we have as well. We're not expecting anything like the Fated season or a special Season 4. The dev team have said many times now that they want to push these expansions out a bit faster, so we should be heading straight into midnight after Season 3 ends. We also now know when we're going to get the full announcement of this expansion, all of its features and hopefully a release date. Blizzard announced this week that Midnight will be revealed at Gamescom in August, where they promised exclusive news and updates about the expansion, as well as a few surprises that they have in store. So it's not just going to be the expansion reveal. I think we're going to get a more detailed roadmap of the rest of 2025, which would include Legion Remix and that special spooky game mode that they've been teasing, and then we'll probably get a good overview of what to expect for 2026, which hopefully includes a release date or at least a release window for the Midnight expansion. We also have to squeeze in the alpha and beta testing in there somewhere, and I imagine we'll see some hands-on gameplay from the Gamescom event, so it's going to be a very exciting next couple of months. Now moving on, the patch 11.2 PTR is shaping up quite well. This week we saw some more class updates and changes, as well as updates to user interface options that could really boost your FPS if you're playing on an older machine. The spell density graphics settings have a few new options that help limit what is shown on your screen. So if you go with everything, every spell effect from every player will be shown, but you can cut that down to a reduced setting, which will show fewer flashy animations that are just flashy for the sake of being flashy, and then you can also knock it down to essential, which will only show your spell effects and the most important ones from other players in your party or raid. The reduced effects can be more transparent, smaller, or be entirely different effects that are less impactful, so you can clear up your screen if things get too cluttered, or you can give your poor, tired graphics card a bit of a breather, whichever works for you. Curiously, all enemy spells and abilities will always be shown at full density no matter which setting you choose, so whether you're facing down an enemy player or a bunch of NPCs, you will always see their effects properly, which is good to know. The PTR update also included a whole bunch of class changes, so let's go through those as well. Frost Death Knights were a little bit in shambles last week, so you'll be glad to know they're getting some more updates. Talents have been shifted around, a few of them have been updated. They're going to get a 10% damage boost across the board. Glacial Advance will apply Razor Ice baseline, and its damage has been increased. All runic power spenders had their cost reduced. Some talents have been buffed. Empower Rune Weapon was moved off the GCD, and Runic Strikes has been removed. So the big changes are in for Frost as a whole, and now we're going to see more fine-tuning, both in terms of how the talents are laid out, but also in terms of damage and numbers. For Dark Ranger hunters, Bleak Powder now has a target cap, but it will now apply Black Arrow's periodic effect to every enemy hit. So there's a bit of give and take for the Dark Rangers this week. The Dark Ranger set bonuses have also been updated to provide flat cooldown reductions from the 2 set bonus, and the 4 set bonus was doubled up to 50% increased damage. For Sentinel, the 2 set bonuses now also increase the damage of Rapid Fire or Wildfire Bomb, and Survival got an extra buff for the Wildfire Bomb initial damage bonus, and then the 4 set no longer applies additional stacks of Sentinel and instead causes Boon of Elune to be active for the duration of Lunar Storm. I'm really interested to see how players react to these hero talent based set bonuses, because so far they seem to be very impactful. And then down at the bottom, Beast Mastery has an update to Wild Speaker that makes it also apply to dire beasts that are summoned while Bestial Wrath is already active. Honestly, both Beast Mastery and Marksmanship are looking pretty good so far on the PTR. Mages saw some updates for their new set bonuses too. For Frostfire, the Fire 2 set now affects Frostfire Bolt, and the Frost 4 set was updated to massively increase the damage of Pyroblast, and the proc now benefits from Splitting Ice, so that's kinda cool. For Spellslinger, Arcane's 2 set was doubled up to a 100% chance to trigger, and the 4 set increases the splinter damage and now hits up to 8 targets up from 5, and then for Sun Fury, both the 2 set and 4 set bonuses were updated as well. Shadow Priests have some more changes too, though most of these seem to be reining in Shadow's current potential. Idol of N'Zoth now triggers at 50 and 100 stacks. Insanity generation from 100 stacks of Horrific Visions was reduced down to 12. They're also seeing a 4% damage nerf across the board, and Subservient Shadows now increases the duration of summoned minions by 20% instead of a flat 3 seconds. Voidweaver also saw changes to Death's Torment and Depth of Shadows, and Subservient now increases the duration of minions from Depth of Shadows as well. The rogues haven't been entirely left out this week, but it's not much more than the first PTR week, I'm afraid. There are a few bug fixes and tooltip adjustments for Fatebound, and then Killing Spree had its icon updated and its cooldowns doubled, and now it only strikes enemies in front of you, so you won't have access to that cooldown quite as often. That's all for the class changes in this week's PTR build, but as the weeks go by, I'm sure we'll see more and more updates, and the closer we get to patch day, the more balance tuning changes we'll see as well. So don't pay too much attention to any numbers tuning right now, the real numbers tuning will start trickling in closer to launch day. Now we do have some other balance tuning changes to talk about this week. On live servers, the new disc belt had some powers altered quite drastically. The belt itself is staying the same, but several disc powers have been massively buffed or nerfed. Critical chain was buffed by 25%, and that one was already pretty strong for some classes, so if you love crit, that one is probably going to be on top now. Static charge was buffed by 50%, so another huge increase there, and then charged crystal was nerfed by 24%, so I don't think anyone will really care too much about that power anymore, and then Charged Bolt saw a massive 62% nerf. Charged Bolt was almost every class's best in slot option for single target damage specifically, but with this nerf I think it's fallen entirely out of favour. WoW had updated their page that recommends the best option for each class and spec, so I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to see if your specific best in slot powers have changed. But that's all of the updates we have so far, so that's it for this week's WoW news video. Which mounts and legendary items are you going to focus on during the Collector's Bounty event, and how do you feel about all of those rewards becoming much easier to obtain? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find a link in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.